Welcome to 1315, the podcast that teaches teens to pursue Christ and defend their faith in everyday life. My name is Caleb Eckerd, and I'm the co-founder of the ministry Grounds for Faith. I'm sitting down with some of the brightest minds that follow Christ to answer the hardest questions, talk to them about what they've learned along the way, and find out what encouragements they might have for the next generation of believers. With that being said, why don't you go ahead and grab yourself a cup of coffee, have a sit, and start listening. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode of 1315. This is Caleb here with you again today. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode. Very excited for today. We have a very special guest with us, or at least it feels like a very special guest. Ben is calling in all the way from the good old NC State. That is in North Carolina, for those of you that are not aware of geography. So yeah, Ben, how are you? How you been? How you been, Ben?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. You know, it's a beautiful day out here in Raleigh. So.
Yeah, Ben would like to inform all the listeners that he currently has straight A's in college. He's at a 4.0 right now.
No.
No.
I wish.
No, yeah, neither one of us have a 4.0 right now. But that's okay. We persevere.
That's right.
All right. So per the request of some of our listeners who responded to our survey on Instagram of topics they wanted to hear, the topic of Kanye West and discernment came about. And side note, if you haven't already, feel free to DM us on, Instagram or Twitter or even Facebook, and send us your ideas of things you want to hear about, things you want for us to talk about, things you want us to write articles about. That way we can truly know what you guys want to be hearing and reading about and what you're curious to know. Ben has put together an article on this. We're gonna have two mediums for kind of discussing this topic. We're gonna have one on the blog as well as this podcast. And I'm just continually, encouraged and blown away by Ben's writing skills and how he processes things through writing. Like, it is far, greater than I could. Like, I pulled up his article and I was like, snap. So, y'all get ready. Be ready. It's coming Friday. It's going to be absolutely fire. You should check it out.
Yes, sir. We're so organized.
I'm so organized?
We're just so organized, and we got the podcast and the article aligned this week. Like, it's a big event. You
know what that's called? That's called a power play. That's a power play.
Down straight. Yes, sir.
So, Ben, you want to kind of just set the scene for those of our listeners or viewers or readers, whatever, that maybe aren't as culturally aware as others. So maybe you can give them some background to some preface to what we're going to be talking about.
Okay. Yeah, so you've probably seen in the news, like Kanye West, converted to Christianity or something like that. But there's been a lot of stuff in the news, and I'm not a big rap fan myself, but I was paying attention to the news, and I've just been hearing about this in different circles and stuff. And Kanye, big rap idol, has just released an album titled Jesus is King with a true gospel rap album. It's pretty cool, actually. I do listen to some of the songs. The church choir one is recommended. Anyways. So there's just been a lot of talk about, is this conversion real? Can we accept this as Christians? How do we decide, what's right and what is true? What is just a publicity stunt? So there's lots going on around the circle of Christians on that idea. And so I think that's why we got this topic, was just to kind of talk about that. What should our approach be as far as with Christ, and how should we approach the issues with friends and the news and different avenues like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Now the first thing when I first heard about all this, I was like, well, dang, this is quite interesting, because and you kind of discussed this in your article that like the big struggle here is that everyone around us, or excuse me, everyone in the world already has their preconceived notion of the kind of music that Kanye West writes and who he is, which is interesting. And you kind of just say this is like something we gotta recognize this, but like ignore this and we can't really let that be our leading judgment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, for sure. Yeah, I think we can talk about that for a little bit. Like you said, we have preconceived notions or like memories of like Kanye's done this, Kanye has done this. Whether it be albums that are explicit albums with a lot of sexual references and different things like that. And we just kind of think about that and like the rapper's life and different things. And then we're like, oh, he's accepted Jesus. Like that's, he says he's accepted Jesus. Like, can that really be real? Like going from that life to a new life, just like on the snap of fingers almost. And so sometimes it can be hard to take in. And so it's definitely something that I don't think is bad to wrestle with as a believer, but then we have to realize, like, what is this gospel that we have accepted, and what does that mean for someone else who accepts it,
Yeah. I really thought about how, kind of in regard to this, like, thinking about Saul in the New Testament, and how everyone had this every single Christian and every single Jew, for that matter, and every Gentile, whatever, had a preconceived notion of who this guy Saul was and the kinds of things that he was doing. So for the Christians, they were like, whoa, bro, like, get away from me. Like, I don't know if you're, like, are you cool? Are we cool? Are we not cool? Yeah. Like, what are we supposed to do with this? But the Jews were like, oh gosh, why, like, what you doing, man? Like, why are you, you're just, you turning in one of these crazy people. But, when I listened to his album, because I think that's the first thing that you can do, or that you should do, is, he's kind of has this, he's put the claim forth, it's been spiraling in the news, that, hey, Kanye West is a Christian now, and let's go. I was like, all right, well, let's see what this new album is all about. Let's see what he's got to write.
Yeah.
And based on what I have heard and seen and watched or whatever and listened to on this album, I would say there are some very, very good and deep theological points that he makes in his album that I think it would serve well for a lot of Christians to listen to and to greatly consider. The number one thing I think about is in his song. It's called Hands On. Towards the back half, he's essentially saying that, he's like, none of these Christians are going to believe me. And it's essentially like his plea with the Christian church, like, please, like, just listen to me. Listen to what what I'm telling you is true. Just listen to me. And he says, he kind of has this line where he's talking about, well, if they're not going to believe me, then I'm just caught in the middle here. He says, I feel like I'm loved by no one. Because if he is born again and, his old friends aren't really going to want anything to do with him. And then the church is like, I don't want anything to do with you because I don't believe you. So I think that's a real danger for us as Christians, is to quote unquote jump the gun. I don't know if that's the right word I'm looking for, but something along those lines.
Definitely. Yeah, I think you have to think about, okay, what are the reasons that I would not want to accept this as truth, or not want to say, oh, Kanye he wants to change his life. I mean, as Christians, we can testify to the saving power of the gospel, so we shouldn't doubt the ability of the gospel and Jesus' sacrifice to cover a multitude of sins, whether or not that's my sins or yours or Kanye's. It's really no different. It's separation, right?
Yep.
So I don't think that's a good argument. As a Christian, to say, oh, the gospel won't save him. I think it's even cooler when the gospel saves people like that, like Paul, because then you're like, oh, wow, this is like, I think I said in my article, the gospel is supernatural or something. Like, it causes you to change your life from a lifestyle that would seem coveted by like anyone else. You can have anything you want, but it's still not satisfying. And there's just something that made you turn your life completely around. And either you're an idiot or you have been changed supernaturally.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really cool. And then if you think about like the stage and the platform that he has as a Christian, and with his new album, how many people have already listened to it, and how many people are hearing about Christianity that might have never heard it before in the news. I think it's a really cool platform. And I mean, there hasn't been much time elapsed since he, says he's given his life to Christ. So we really have no reason not to believe that, or, if we're going to look at people's fruit in their lives, I would say, be joyful that, Kanye, seems to want to follow Christ. So like, be joyful that we have another brother in the kingdom, and then, look for the fruit in the future. Like, what are the signs pointing to? What does it look like? But really, I mean, there's nothing but devotion right now, it seems,
Yeah. And I was watching well, I'll get to that in a second, but, again, kind of what we were talking about with Paul and whatever, I am hesitant or worried that, many Christians will look at their own life and they will minimize their sin, in a sense of saying they will, they don't. I feel like they will not recall their salvation experience at nearly as much as they would, say, Kanye's or whatever. So in their minds, they're like, well, when I was saved, after that I was good, like I was chilling, or I was a good person. I didn't do this, and I turned away from this sin. But really, what we got to remember is there's a lot of sanctification that goes on between the time you're saved and where you are today. So, I mean, if you're 30-year-old, or we'll just say 30 or 40. If you're a 30-year-old man and you gave your life to Christ when you were, say, 20, that's still 10 years. 10 years. That's like 3,665 days that the Lord has had the opportunity to work on you. And that's the time that you've had to be in the Word and be encouraged and have that sin chipped away from your heart. But for, like, say for Kanye, like, if he's saying he's given his life to Christ, well, my man's has like maybe a month or less of time that he has spent with the Lord. So it's like, yeah, there are gonna be bumps in the road. There are gonna be times where we see that war between what is the flesh and what is the spirit. So I think that's something to be aware of, and something to like think on and to consider in our own lives. Like, are we allowing the Holy Spirit to do its work in the lives of others before we make a judgment on them? Because at the end of the day, like, it is the Holy Spirit that changes people.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. What were you gonna say? You saw a video of?
Oh yeah. I was watching Jimmy Kimmel, right? He come and Jimmy Kimmel asks. He said, well, Kanye, are you born again? Do you feel born again? Are you a born again Christian? He said, well, absolutely. And then he goes, so does this make you a Christian artist now? Are you a Christian rap artist now? And Kanye says, I'm just a Christian everything now. And I was like, that is so good.
Yeah, that is good.
I was
That's
like,
cool.
Dude, how good would that serve a lot of people today to be thinking on that? Like, you are not just Christ is not just something you do or you go to. It's not a church service you attend on a certain day. It's not a community group that you go to maybe once a week or something like that. But it is it's an everyday, all the time, everywhere you are activity. Like, because it's who you are. And if we're not feeding that spirit that's inside of us, then there's no way that doesn't, there's no way that it will radiate out from us. So it really just makes us think, like, as Christians in the church, are we a Christ follower all the time? Are we a Christ follower when we are alone at home? Are we a Christ follower when we're listening to whatever music we want to in the car? Are we a Christ follower when we go to the movies? Are we a Christ follower when we're hanging out with our friends? Like, it's a big deal. And it's something that we should really be thinking about, whether we're in school, at the workplace, out with friends, whatever it is. Like, are you a Christian everything? Yeah. Everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole idea of, is Christianity or is following Jesus your identity, or is it part of your identity?
Yep.
Or is it something you do, like you're saying, or is it who you are? So, yeah, I think that's a big thing for all of us to wrestle with, and to examine our own lives. But I think in terms of, Kanye, I said at the end of my article, I was like, pray, pray for courage for him, pray for, people's hearts to be open to hear what he might have to say to advance the gospel, and for the platform to be open. And so I think that prayer is huge. Millions of people are praying around the world for revival in their communities and wherever. So who's to say that he might be a small part of that? And we all are in the Christian body, right?
Yep.
And so we should be encouraged by that, not distraught or, picking fights with people about it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Whew. Well, that's good. That is so good.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. And on Friday, you're going to get a very detailed article that Ben's pushing out. It's solid. Like, it is some absolute fire, as the kids might say these days.
Did you already look at it?
Yeah, I did look at it. Perused it, didn't read it in its entirety. But yeah, I was super excited while I was sitting in the parking lot getting ready to leave work. I wanted to listen to read it before I got here, because I wanted to kind of know what you had said, and see what you'd written and see how you were processing things. And it is a treat, I'm telling you, for whoever. And that's another thing. Like, if you haven't subscribed to the blog via email, you need to subscribe to the blog, and it's going to give you
retweet.
Yeah, retweet, tweet, ask us questions, send us your questions, post, all that good stuff. But you need to check your email after you subscribe and click the confirm button to make sure that you are, in fact, getting our emails. Because if you don't click that confirm button, you will not be receiving emails from us. And what would that be, Ben?
That would just be unbelievable.
An absolute travesty, that would be.
It would be tragic.
So we've got maybe a few more of these where I'm solo. Ben should be back here shortly Coming back into town in the next, 2 weeks?
Yeah, Thanksgiving break.
Yeah, so that hopefully maybe sometime around Thanksgiving we'll get you out a good article and a good podcast with the both of us in person. Sad to admit that when I thought I was going to actually come home and record with you, but you're actually down in NC State, so I can't do that.
Dang.
So,
that's sad.
But that's all right. I'll take the phone date anytime. So yeah, follow us online at groundsforfaith.com via email, as well as on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Just simply look up Grounds for Faith, and then you'll know what to do from there. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today and checking out. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Go out there and make an impact for the Lord today wherever you are, and be a Christian everything.